That's a shame. Everyone should have a dog. Continuing on the Coexist page, we have this umbrella. Surely would seem strange on a page with ideologies, denominations, religions, ways of thinking. And we'll get into here why an umbrella. Going to look at the word Christianity in terms of an umbrella term. We could have an umbrella term, maybe sports. And we look at the ways in which you could have winter sports, you could have summer sports, you could have professional sports, you could have amateur sports, you could have team sports, individual sports. So an umbrella term, just putting it as a heading and looking at it a little bit more detailed. So Christianity originally, you recall, broke away from Judaism. And we have the following known as Catholicism. And this is often the type of religion that is referred to when people say the church globally. Now, Catholicism comes in different flavors and types. You have things such as Roman Catholicism, you have Greek Catholicism, you have Orthodox Catholicism, you have Greek Orthodox Catholicism, and there's several others. Now, just as Christianity broke away from Judaism, you have a group of folks that also broke away from Catholicism. And it's just natural. Anytime you have a group of people, you get differences in opinions, different interpretations. And so a group broke away from Catholicism, kept many of the tenets, similar to how Christianity kept the Torah and then built upon that. And so the group of Christians who broke away from Catholicism, they protested against some of the ideas with Catholicism. And so those are your Protestants. And the Protestants have an enormous different crayon flavors in the box, if you will. They have Baptists, Southern Baptists, Pentecostals, Presbyterians, Methodists, Lutherans, and you can keep going for quite some time. A Protestant is essentially someone who is a follower of Christ, a Christian, but non-Catholic. So you're likely going to be asked on your CK, Celebration of Knowledge, your test, what are non-Catholic Christian denominations called? And the answer would be your non-Catholic Christian denominations are Protestants, of which there are many different types of Protestant followings. So again, non-Catholic Christian faiths are Protestants. An example going very close to home in terms of where I teach. We have a very prevalent group of Christians who are not Roman Catholic, don't follow Catholicism, so they protest against, and that would be a group of individuals here known as LDS, Latter-day Saints. And the flag of origination for this group of individuals, this is the flag of New York. City of New York is where this religion began. And if you're not familiar with the LDS following, very brief, just as all the other ones on this page have been equally insulting in terms of so quickly an overview. We have essentially the central person in New York City who founded this religion is an individual who was in their teens looking for whatever that truth, righteousness, path of leading a good life is. There are a lot of options, decisions to be made, sought guidance, and received a visit from an angel. And this angel, depicted here, Moroni, visited with this young individual named Joseph Smith and taught him instruction from God, and then instructed Joseph Smith to write these in a book and share this message with the world, the book known as the Book of Mormon. And the origination date of this, 1830. And if you think in terms that we've mentioned, looking at some of these other followings, 1830, that's just under the belt of 200 years. And so this is why in some places outside of particularly United States, it's still very much seen as a breakaway, offshoot in a way from Christianity. Question often comes up in my classes and learning logs is what denomination, way of thinking might I participate in? And I'm very much surprised anybody would even have to ask. I mean, clearly, that's what it's all about. And we have the place of origin from the comic books, Krypton, relative to Earth. Classic symbol for Superman. And the flag of origination, Krypton. And of course, we boil it all down. All these ways of thinking are strategies for humans to try and get to the ultimate of truth. So Kryptonian for truth right there. And one of the things we kind of have to appreciate as humans is that maybe there is some sort of defined truth, and the way in which different people come about this and perceive it is quite different than one another. It's kind of a throwback to where we started with this Coexist, looking at the oldest practicing religion, still in practice that is, and that is Hinduism, where there's one truth but many paths to that truth. At the bottom of the page we have this comic, and it's just as a reminder to clarify a question I often get: what's the difference between an agnostic and an atheist? An atheist is someone who is adamant that there is no supreme being or beings. You know, is equally adamant as someone who feels there is a supreme being or beings. Agnostics, they tend to take a lot of ribbing from people. Some people will say agnostics are just lazy atheists, people who can't decide. Well, if you go back to it, Gnostic, without the prefix a, Gnostic was someone in Greek times, for example, who believed in many gods. A, meaning opposite, so someone who does not believe in gods or a god. Agnostic in today's cultural reference may mean more someone who feels that there's no proof either way. And we can take this into philosophical, environmental, just different elements of this idea of coexist, coexhaust. We have for our techies, coexist. Might recognize a couple of there. I think certainly the bookend, the C of Apple, and the T, coexist, being the Windows. And for those of you watching this because you're in quarantine or just making up work from being absent, you might be doing so on a Chrome device, Google and Chromebooks. And then our full dedicated fans know what these different software mediums are. For our sci-fi fans, there we go. Death Star, Star Wars, Ring for Lord of the Rings, Alien, X-Files, The Whovians. This version has Harry Potter. This version has, what is that? Oh yes, the Super Shield, and a Star Trek phaser. For the fans of Star Trek, coexist with Star Trek and Star Wars. So we have Star Wars Death Star, Star Trek Enterprise, Star Wars X-Wing, Star Trek Vulcan, Salute, the Star Wars lightsaber, and the Star Trek phaser. If you're a fan of both Star Wars and Star Trek fairly equally, no real preference one over the other, just fans of both, you're what is unofficially known in the world of nerdiness, geekiness, whatever your preferred term is, you are a member of Star Alliance. So this is a classic Star Alliance coexist. If you are strictly a Star Wars fan, probably recognize those. And back to the comic books for coexist. And because this is a class, Astronomy of the Universe, that I originally wanted to name Are We Alone? Kind of thinking about, is there life out there? I thought this No Exist might be quite fun. Now, the reason I wanted to go over some of these world denominations with you, is I wanted to show you one particular religion's look at their origin story playing out in the night sky, astronomy. Even though this is from 2003, the information is still pretty accurate a couple decades on. I just haven't been able to find a more current cited image, but the stats are quite similar, even a couple decades out. The overall message I wanted to convey with this map here is that if you look at the world as a whole, across the planet, you have about 70% of humans who are not Christian. 30% identify in other ways than Christian. Where when you come to the United States, it's the complete opposite, where 70% of the population in the United States is some form of Christian and 30% non-Christian. Because I'm teaching you in the United States, we are going to look at Christianity and how their story of origination of Christianity plays out into the night sky. So we mentioned the symbol of this fish here, going back to the Roman Empire, the widespread Christian influence. This right here is our zodiac wheel. Going back to one of our earlier activities with the dot to dot and looking at the 12 star patterns that are chosen not because of their ease of finding, but their location. And it's agreed upon by many anthropologists, archaeologists, that this is one of the world's oldest symbols across cultures. And in terms of the oldest worshipped object, there is no doubt that across the cultures, the sun, S-U-N, so not the S-O-N of the basis of Christianity, the sun, S-O-N of a deity. We have the S-U-N. This is very much the most worshipped object across cultures, and even today at this very moment, this is one of the most worshipped celestial objects. If you think about it, you may have glanced to see how long is this video? Is the video almost over? What time is class over? How much longer? You're thinking about time. And the way in which we base our time systems is thanks to the wonderful S-U-N sun. So we definitely are still sun worshippers as humans on the planet today. You may have seen sundials. Pretty neat science trick here. You can tell time with the sundial if it's pointing at a watch. Of course, I wonder how many people in today's era can tell time from an analog watch rather than digital. All right, so going back to the world's most worshipped, oldest symbol, we have the zodiac wheel. And at the center of the zodiac wheel, of course, is the S-U-N. And pivotal to Christianity is the central figure of the S-O-N, the Son of God. And we'll show you how this symbol of the zodiac wheel does throw itself into the world of Christianity. If you've ever been to Christian graveyards, you may see headstones that resemble the crucifix, which is a moment of defining moment in Christianity. And you may even see some of them that have this pattern. Try and draw here with the mouse. Probably better than if I'd have drawn it in the classroom. So that is the zodiac wheel behind there. Most people don't recognize that is the case. The next picture I'm going to draw, whether it's on computer with a mouse or in the whiteboard, with my spectacularly abysmal, atrocious drawing skills, is always offensive. I don't mean for it to come across offensive, but we're going to draw this right here, and that's just going to represent the Christ figure. Again, not meaning to offend anyone in any way, shape, or form, but sometimes there is depicted with this Christ figure the halo. That halo is actually representative of your zodiac wheel right here. Let's get rid of my horrible drawings there. All right, so the cultural mythology of Christianity played out in the night sky goes back to their sacred text of the Bible, the latter half of the New Testament. And in the New Testament, there's this prophecy that there would be the birth of the Christ figure. And if you wanted to be at the birth of the Christ figure, then you could follow this star in the east. And this star in the east is known as Sirius. Now, if you ever go to a star show in a planetarium and you're getting an overview of the night sky, you will have the planetarium commentator point out to you this relevant fact that Sirius is the brightest star in the night sky. And that's whether you live in the northern or southern hemisphere, because it's equatorial, near the equator. And of course, the narrator will then say, seriously, it's the brightest star in the night sky. And be sure to laugh, as though that's the first time you've heard that joke, as well as it's one of the more funny things you've heard at that moment. That will carry you far, those of you plan on going to college, some sort of next level education. Learning to laugh at your instructor's jokes, no matter how abysmal they are, is a great academic strategy for you. Now, in your notes, you definitely want to get down that the Sirius is the brightest star in the night sky. I'm sure you'll be asked that on a celebration of knowledge. Sirius, the brightest star in the night sky. What is the brightest star in the night sky? Sirius. Sirius is part of the star pattern known as the dog. So Canis Major, the big dog. There is also Canis Minor, the little dog. Those of you that are fans of J.K. Rowling's work, Harry Potter mythology, you'll know that she has a character Sirius and can be transformed into a black dog. All right, so the Star of the East, as we reference back to Christian mythos, is something that was held as a marker in the night sky for people to follow. Here you see this very bright star, the 3 stars within the belt of Orion, and the sword, shield, club. So the brightest star in the night sky in New Testament times was referred to as the star in the east. And the king stars were what Orion's belt used to be referred to. It's fairly modern now to call it Orion's belt. They used to be known as the king stars. So in the mythos of the New Testament, you had the 3 kings that were following the star of the east to get to the birth of the son of a deity. Now, this takes place in New Testament times during the winter solstice in the northern hemisphere. And at this time, our sun is at the lowest point in its path across the sky. Now, not so low that it's actually burning up the horizon here. What we mean is if we were to watch the path of the sun, S-U-N, over the course of a year, it creates this shape. This is what we mean by in the northern hemisphere in late December reaching the lowest point in the sky. And of course, opposite of that, 6 months later, the highest point in the sky for northern hemisphere folks would be your summer solstice. And then right in here, your 2 equinoxes, your autumnal equinox and vernal equinox, or we commonly call autumn and spring. So the solstice is a time of celebrating the birth of Christ in Christianity, and the sun is at the lowest point in the sky, S-U-N. In the prophecy of the New Testament, the birth of the Son of God would happen through a virgin birth. This is the star pattern from the zodiac wheel of Virgo, often Virgo the Virgin. If we look back in Hebrew, house of bread is actually a term for Bethlehem. And Bethlehem is the given birthplace for Christ. And as I mentioned, the use of a virgin birth is quite common when you look across the globe at different cultural origin stories. So the birth of Christ in late December, the sun, S-U-N, begins to rise again into higher and higher throughout the remaining months as you approach your summer solstice. And during this time period, just shortly before December 25th, as many, but not all, Christian denominations herald as the birth of Christ, December 25th, there's actually the star pattern of the Southern Cross that can be seen. And the cross is pivotal in the Christian following, as the story later goes. Christ is crucified upon a cross, and so a very recognizable symbol of Christianity. And so after Christmas, the biggest holiday in Christianity soon follows, and that is the holiday of Easter, our spring equinox. And this is where you get equal parts of light and dark in certain places of the globe here, or the planet rather. And this kind of is a shout out to something we see in westerns, space westerns, where light representing good, dark representing bad, and that spring equinox we're getting more and more daylight, northern hemisphere, and so it's kind of representing within Christian mythology light, the good overcoming the bad, when Christ is reawakened from the resurrection of his crucifixion. Now, in astronomy, we do have this term, the precession of the equinoxes, where what's behind the sun, star pattern-wise, within the zodiac, is the precession of the equinoxes, as throughout a time cycle, about 26,000 years, you see all the zodiac patterns moving behind the sun, or relative to the sun. And then if we break this into those 12, you get an age, which is about 2100 years, 2150 years is an age. So you can have the age of, over here's Libra, age of Leo, age of Scorpio. If we play this precession of the equinoxes against the backdrop, if you will, of Old Testament time, so both the Judaism, Christianity, as we mentioned on the Coexist page, you have Taurus. And if you are familiar with some of the stories from Old Testament times, there's a lot of symbolism with bulls and cows, sacrifices being done with cows and bulls, and then other non-Christian faiths in the way in which they view the sacredness of cows and bulls. If we advance another age from Taurus, that's going to take you to Aries. And this will take you right to about the time of the Common Era, 1 AD. And we have lots of imagery within late Old Testament, early New Testament about goats, rams. In fact, some of the Jewish traditions and rituals are signaled, celebrations religiously are celebrated, marked by a Jewish elder ringing in the opening of the ceremony, or the religious dedication services, with a tusk or a horn from a ram. It's hollowed out, and the elder will force air through that and make a trumpeting sound. And moving on to the next age, the age of Pisces, which we're currently in, the age of Pisces. And this is very prominent within New Testament symbolism, where the Christ figure, often referred to as the fisher of men, a parable of him feeding thousands with fish. And so this also is a very common symbol for Christianity, as that was the symbol we actually put on the Coexist page for you, is that Christian fish, where sometimes you see it as decals on vehicles and things. Our next age, so we had Taurus, Aries, Pisces, next is Aquarius. So the age of Aquarius, and this is where I wrap up our Christian mythos as it's played out against the stars. And there is quite a bit of revelation provided at the end of New Testament, describing how the earth will be baptized and a mass flooding will occur. And so symbolism across Christian cultures may be shifting from fish to more water type representations. At least the phrase of Age of Aquarius has already entered our culture, in that even a little bit before my time, thank you, there was a song known as The Dawning of the Age of Aquarius, or that was a line from the song, Dawning of the Age of Aquarius. Hence, little comic references such as this, the fish singing, "This is the dawning of the age of Aquarium."